Okay. Pin a comment. Doo doo. All right. Hey, hey. Great. Okay. So today my guest is Chris Lutz. He's the U.S. marketing manager of Pranaram, which is an international company. It's actually the market leader when it comes to medical and pharmaceutical essential oils. So I want to talk to him about so many different things. They are based in Minneapolis. I think their production facility is. I want to ask him what these last months have been like. He's also a man who focused on clean beauty and organic beauty, it seems like, since he got out of his education, which is cool. Um, I spent the morning looking into how issues in the beauty industry as someone who loves self-care and skincare, and there are huge issues. So we have a lot to change and work on, and I'm just waiting for him to join. So anyway, it's a crazy time for social media. Social media has actually been really helpful for the beauty industry and making it more inclusive. And I want to hear, I want to talk about it. So ask questions if you have questions. Hey.
Hi, I wasn't sure if you were going to add me on or if I should just send a request. So it looks like we're.
No, this is perfect.
Well,
oh my
good.
gosh, your counter looks like my bathroom because I love so many of your products.
I know, it's kind of it's like our menagerie of all of our latest and greatest.
I love them. So thank you for joining.
Yeah,
I've got
absolutely.
like 4 different pages in my notebook of all 4 different topics. I think the first one I want to jump into is just being in Minneapolis, and what it's been like for you and as a brand.
Well, it's been interesting, right? So we're far enough away from the epicenter of everything that's been going on that we have been able to resume fairly normal operations, but we're close enough that it's really always in the forefront of our mind. We have a lot of people a lot of team members here in the office that live in areas where protesting is happening and where people are being really engaged in civil discourse. And a lot of our stores have been affected as well by everything that's happening.
Right. That's what I want people to know too. Like, you all are primarily a pharmacy, right? Like, at your heart, you distribute products that you've come up with to pharmacies and to stores. So did you tell me? I think you told me yesterday that you had some of the stores that you distribute to got broken into.
Yeah, actually, we have by our estimates, we have like 170 stores that are affected by what's happening right now, locally and nationally, and at least there are several chains that we work with in the Twin Cities, and 3 stores from one chain were impacted that had significant damage to the stores. Gosh, there's got to be at least a half dozen that we're working with them right now just to kind of assess damage and clean up the mess. So we're trying to engage with the stores, and not just provide them with tools from Pronarome, but also just just lend a hand, because it's just the devastation in the community has been unprecedented.
Have you spoken directly to any of the store owners who had been looted or broken windows or?
So something that's actually pretty cool. There's a chain of kind of like specialty and gourmet stores that we work with in the Twin Cities that has 27 locations, and they're a pretty significant player in this market. They have like 10% market share in the Twin Cities, so it's not small it's not a small business. Um, and the CEO and owner of the company was right there at the store all weekend helping clean up. And he was actually shuttling employees who weren't able to ride the bus because the bus service was shut down to work so that they could come to work. And he reminded um, I have a couple of friends that work for the company, and basically what they said was, he said, we need you, we need
Yeah.
you. So that's been cool to see that everybody's really engaged. And our key account manager for the Twin Cities was at that particular store yesterday, kind of taking stock, and I guess she ran into him as well. So it's, yeah, I mean,
Quite a week.
yeah, I got some pictures in my mailbox yesterday from that particular store, and it was, it could have been a lot worse. Knock wood. We're glad that it wasn't, but certainly a lot of cleanup is going to have to happen.
Yeah. When insurance comes in and helps small stores deal with the cleanup, are they responsible at all for restoring inventory?
I would imagine that they probably would be totally responsible for replenishing their own inventory until the insurance company comes back with the
Right, like individual stores are covering that.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't have information as to whether like that is something that's just a loss to the business owner or if insurance is covering like loss of products.
Well, I'm sure that they probably would cover loss of products and loss of fixtures and just overall infrastructure, but I think it probably would take a long time for them to get that payout. And so
Yeah.
over the short term, it's kind of their responsibility to become functional as a store again, which is why everybody has been pitching in the Twin Cities and in the areas where like small community groceries have been looted or burned down. There's been requests for donations, and I think like an awesome example of community outreach that has a super positive result is there was a store in like the Uptown area, which is kind of where everything started, that was burned down. It's leveled, and so community organizers asked for something like 80 bags of groceries and supplies for the community, and they received like thousands and thousands of donations. So people really put their hearts and minds together and have responded in a way that is it's hopeful. It makes me feel like there's
Well, that's definitely good to hear. How is it for you? I know you said you're like slightly out of the main scene, but are you still based do you live in Minneapolis proper?
I do not live in Minneapolis proper. I live in one of the suburbs that immediately parallels Minneapolis proper. So I could drive to the areas that were most heavily impacted in about 10 minutes.
Wow.
And our offices as well are immediately bordering the city. So on most of our employees' commute into work, they pass by the major thoroughfares that go into downtown. So certainly we're right there,
Yeah. What's the scene like there? Like while you're, if we were to get in the car with you and drive, 10 minutes, what does it look like?
So when you are where we are at, there's frankly speaking, there's not a lot going on, here where we're at. But if you were to drive, like I said, maybe 10, 15 minutes into kind of the heart of Minneapolis, you'd probably, there's demonstrations in different areas of the city. There's things happening in Minneapolis. There's things happening in St. Paul, which is where the Capitol is. The Capitol building has had between like 1,500 and 5,000 people outside of it daily, basically since last Friday, and that doesn't seem to be changing. It seems like it's pretty consistent.
Yeah. And
then too, like if you were to drive through, I went for a drive yesterday morning or the morning before, and I went kind of over in that direction, and I saw some vandalism, but I didn't see any, really, really severe damage. But I wasn't really quite to the area where a lot of the stuff has happened. And the news, I think, they show this area that's been really heavily hit, and it's really there's been disparate things that have happened all over the city, but there is one particular area where like kind of a whole intersection has been destroyed. But it's fairly, bound by a specific area, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Did you feel like, just while we have you, on the line, like, it's fine if you don't have an answer to this, but like, did you feel that Minneapolis had racial tension that was very alive and well? Like, did this come as a huge surprise to you, or had you heard stories like this among your Black friends before, of police brutality? Like, what was your feeling of racial tension before the incident?
Well, I actually, when I first met my wife, we owned a house in North Minneapolis, which is an area where there is a larger population of African American. The African American community is larger in that area.
Yeah.
And so I had some exposure to the tensions that have been an issue in Minneapolis. And Governor Walz, who's our governor here in Minnesota, spoke a couple of days ago, and he put it really eloquently, which is what he said was basically, Minnesota is a great place to live. We have some of the highest incomes in the country, some of the happiest people in the country, and really high concentration of Fortune 500 companies. So it's a place where a lot of people like to live. But he said none of those things are true if you're Black, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a great place to live if you're white. Historically we've had an issue with interaction between the Caucasian community and the African American community in the Twin Cities, and I think racial tensions have always been heightened here compared to other areas of the country, quite frankly. And we had, Philando Castile, the case a couple of years ago where he was just in his car, and another case of police brutality. So I guess to answer your question, unfortunately, I wasn't that surprised. But I think that this time it feels different, because this time it feels like the entire community is kind of coming together and saying, we're just done with this. It's not acceptable.
For anyone who just joined, we're talking about Pranaram, which is a company that happens to have a headquarters in Minneapolis. So Chris, who we're speaking with, is in Minneapolis and kind of telling us about the scene on the ground. As the U.S. marketing manager, like, since all of this has happened, since like 10 minutes away from you is barricaded off and like full on insanity, are you having conversations on your team about diversity and inclusion with your brand more so now?
Well, we've definitely had a lot of conversations in our office just about what's happened and about kind of our personal feelings about how we can be better. And I think that we're all, it's been something that's been top of mind. I don't know that we've talked necessarily about how to pivot with our messaging, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is because we always have sort of tried to be an inclusive beauty and wellness brand. And so we don't show pictures of people in general, white or Black. We really try to focus on botanicals and organic agricultural practices. And so it kind of made us think, like, it's interesting, because we've never really thought about the fact that we don't really use like imagery of people of any skin tone in any. I
feel like you guys use imagery of hands, so it's like that's probably like your opportunity to just like make it,
yeah, definitely
less of like a white bodied hand. Because I feel like, it's just true that so many skincare and beauty companies are making the assumption that their audiences are white. And it's such a nice thing about essential oils that it's like, there's not the challenge of coming up with 40 skin tones. Right. It's like, in and of itself, it is a product that is for everyone, that everyone can use.
Exactly. I was actually thinking about that when I was getting ready to come to work this morning, when I was thinking about what I wanted to say on the call, because, we're not manufacturing foundation. We're not making products for people within a specific skin tone range. And like you said, our products really are not bound by any sort of, racial boundaries or gender boundaries. And that's been very intentional. I will say that we know that about 91% of our customers are women, but we don't know that much about, how they self-identify in terms of race.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's one of the things, like I actually I featured your guys' products. I posted a video recently where I was like teaching my boyfriend my skincare
Yeah,
routine.
that was
And
awesome.
it had some of your stuff in it, and because I love your products. And it made me realize, like, I think it's unfair that we don't give self-care info to men as much as we give it to women. I feel like self-care is like beyond beauty. It's like everything to do with self-care needs to be sort of like distributed more evenly. Because I think, I want your opinion on it, but it seems to me like it's being given to white women. Like white women
Well,
are getting the info on jade rollers and face massage and breathing techniques and beauty and skincare much more so than any other group.
I would agree, and I think that as a man who uses a lot of essential oils and other products in my routine, more so than I think what would probably be considered average for men.
Yeah.
My frustration is when I shop in mass market, it's all a lot of the same. You know what I mean? It's the products are very safe, the routines are very safe, and I think that if we want to get philosophical, I believe actually that if we talked more about self-care for men and men felt less emasculated by the concept of self-care, we probably would have a less violent society.
Yeah. I think it's a really, really good point. What have you found, like, in encountering, like, you know, you obviously look at data and look at target markets. If we're talking about gender now instead of race, like, what do you think about when you're creating campaigns, like, in terms of gender?
You know, when we create campaigns, um, I, I, I have to tell you that I don't go into our campaign creation with any kind of inherent bias, knowing that our customers are primarily women. And I think the reason why is because, like I said, we focus so much on the beauty of the ingredients that we use that we really hope that that's the message that comes through and that the customer receives that positively, regardless of whether it's a woman, a man, somebody who doesn't self-identify with either gender. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're lucky in that way. It's kind of a unique space where we truly, for us, it's really about the plants.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. I just think, like, the reality is it's going to be in so many more homes of white women than it is going to be in the homes of people of color. You know, like, what is a brand like yours starting to brainstorm with getting your products into more households of color?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with distribution, right? So it starts with where you can buy the product. And so we've always been very
Yeah.
supportive of independent businesses, lots of wellness centers, including wellness centers in areas that are, you know, populated predominantly by people of color. Um, and you know, we distribute primarily through brick and mortar stores. We have a little bit of an online presence, but it's not where most of our customers meet our product. So I think for us,
Yeah.
the challenge is, you know, being where those customers live and shop, and how we expand our customer base beyond predominantly white women is by expanding our retail um, footprint beyond stores that are predominantly shopped at by those people, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. You are such like a pharmacy brand that it's, you know, there's not a lot of heavy-handed marketing one way or another. It's like,
Right.
if that's in your corner store and you care about health, no matter who you are, you can access it.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and that's so wonderful. Um, I want to talk a little bit about the history of the company.
Okay.
So what I know is it was founded in 1991 by a Belgian pharmacist, Dominique Baudot. Is that how you pronounce his last name?
Bagu or
Baudot.
thereabouts. Yeah.
And the company was one of the first pharmacists in Belgium to focus on essential oils for healthcare purposes.
Yes.
And since 91, it's become the world leader of aromatherapy for medical purposes.
Yeah. So we're still working on building brand awareness in the United States. Our U.S. business was actually so Pronarome was founded in Belgium in '91. In 2016, Pronarome acquired a company in the US called Veriditas Botanicals that had been selling to a lot of these natural food stores, co-ops, wellness centers since 2007. And so we rebranded the line in the US, and that's kind of how Pronarome came into the US space. But within Europe, where the business has kind of always been, it's the preeminent player when it comes to French medical aromatherapy. And so we have a really robust business in France, Spain, Italy, Belgium. We have distributors in Portugal, Canada, and the UK. But I think the really the core of the business is France, Italy, and Spain. And we have about 10,000 pharmacies that carry the products in Europe.
And what is that? I know that like what you all did that was special was creating chemo typed essential oils. What does that mean?
So what that means basically is when you distill an essential oil, depending on where the plant was grown, how it was grown, and how it was distilled, different chemical constituents will either have higher or lower percentages in the resulting essential oil. So you can look at the essential oil and say, like, for example, with lavender, this lavender oil has a higher amount of linalool acetate and a lower amount of linalool than the standard. And so chemotyping is kind of a way of looking at the unique fingerprint of the plant based on where it was grown and how it was distilled, so that you can say more definitively what the benefits are for using. Yeah.
There's a lot of talk in skincare about essential oils being more allergenic and potentially having like a shorter shelf life than other products that don't have essential oils in them. Can you address those 2 points?
I've never heard the comment that products with essential oils have a shorter shelf life per se. I think that if that were the case, it would be because of the other ingredients in the product and not necessarily because of the essential oils.
Okay.
In general, essential oils have like a 2 to 5 years shelf life, depending on the chemical family that they kind of belong to. So there's different essential oils. Essential oils kind of fall into different families based on the chemical constituents in the oils. Some, like citrus oils, can oxidize when they're exposed to air and light. So they would have a shorter shelf life. Maybe 2 years once the bottle's been opened would probably be the longest I'd recommend. But other essential oils like frankincense and patchouli actually can improve with age. And so some essential oils like patchouli, for example, you can have for like 10, 15 years and they actually just get better and better.
Oh, that's good to know. Yeah. And then what about the point about essential oils being allergenic and like not always good for skin types that say have active acne or rosacea?
So there's a couple things that I could say about that. So first of all, some essential oils cause skin sensitivity, especially with exposure to sunlight. So lots of citrus oils, especially if they're cold pressed, are considered what's called photosensitizing, which means that because of the way that they're manufactured, they have chemical constituents in them that react with sunlight to make your skin burn more easily. So that's a problem, right? Mm-hmm. There's also essential oils that just by their very nature are kind of sensitizing to skin unless they're diluted quite heavily. Sometimes you would hear maybe the expression that's a hot oil. So oils of, like, for example, cinnamon bark, oregano, some of those more kind of potent and intense essential oils really benefit from being heavily diluted. Okay. When it comes to skincare, what we did with our skincare line was choose oils that we knew were not photosensitizing, and then we diluted them to rates that we knew based on the data were really going to be safe for leaving, for topical products that you leave on rather than rinsing away.
I love them. The oil cleanser, I love the smell of. Like when I use it, the dog, like basically my boyfriend's dog here, will like come to my face and like smell my face a million times because it does smell so good. I want to make sure I'm doing it correctly, which is I pump it and put it on my face. I do a little massage and then I take a warm washcloth and wipe it away. Is that how you use the product? Well,
so my skin is kind of combination to oily. So what I like to do is apply it dry, massage it in, then yes, wash it away with a warm washcloth. People that have more kind of normal to dry skin
Yeah.
don't necessarily need to towel it away. If they like that feeling of the conditioning that it leaves behind, it's not gonna there's no like surfactant in it that's gonna um, cause any issues with sensitivity if you don't totally rinse it away with a warm washcloth. But I just like to do that for me because my skin is a little bit more on the oily side.
Well, then I can't, I feel like if I have an oil layer, then I can't put like vitamin C and like, then
Yeah,
nothing will penetrate. So I feel like I want to get it off.
yeah. Then there's that factor too, of course, which makes sense. And it kind of depends on what the next steps are in your skincare routine, right? So right now we have our facial mist, which is kind of like a toner, and then the treatment moisture oil, which is the last step. We're working on some other things that will be,
Yeah.
you know, possibly coming out sometime next year. Maybe some spot treatments, and then some. Like we're also looking at doing like an overnight oil peel.
Yeah. I love it. I think like, you know, there's so much this week about like people, let's say people who have a beauty company or people who have a beauty blog, like muting themselves. And I get
Yeah.
it. But like part of me just wants to remind people like the people who are not part of the, like the people who have positive, like your company, for instance, your skincare is amazing. It's inexpensive. You know, it lasts for a long time. It's natural. It's not damaging the environment. Like you are part of the future. And like, I want to make sure, like, I think the change we can make with a company like yours is just get it into more households of color. Like that seems to be the goal there. But like, in my opinion, it absolutely shouldn't be something that, you know, we need to stop talking about during this time. Like this kind of skincare we're discussing is part of the solution, in my opinion.
Well, and yeah, I mean, it's a decision that every company and every person has to make. You know, we didn't stop. I don't know that we posted yesterday, but I also know that we didn't halt everything we were doing because I think that for me, and for us, it's about more than just one day. It's about a broader conversation, right? And just on a personal level, I chose not to black out my profile because to me, that's an easy thing that anybody can do. But I think it's more about, you know, from a social justice perspective, where do you go from there? What do you actually do personally with your interactions with people of color to move the conversation in the right direction? And it's not just changing your profile picture for a day. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I just felt like it wasn't a substantive thing to do.
I feel like, you know, I'm glad that you and I are in dialogue right now. And I like definitely feel conscious of the fact that like we are two white people. But at the same time, I think like it's better. So I want to like let us have a conversation, you know, about race and beauty. And like what I've started to become aware of is, you know, just looking into the beauty industry, like it's a pretty messed up place when it comes to diversity. So like, for instance, in the 1940s, you know, only as recently as the 1940s, makeup for Black women actually focused on skin lightening. That's like a really recent stat. And then it wasn't until the 70s that we, like with the Black is Beautiful movement, that there was like a wider range of beauty products coming out that started to even approach Black women as a market for beauty that would enhance their intrinsic qualities. I think
Well,
like, yeah.
And even now, and I can speak to that too because I've worked for, you know, other companies that are more truly entrenched in, you know, cosmetics. Like I did some freelance work for some Estee Lauder companies, and I did makeup with Christian Dior for a little while. And I think that you know, a lot of these things are still happening. There's a lot of products that are designed specifically for Asian customers are still focused around skin lightening and skin translucency and brightening, and that's maybe we need to have a conversation about that. Is that a problem? And another thing is, as you know, as a consequence of my professional and personal interest in the industry, I watch a lot of videos, and I watch a lot of like influencer videos on YouTube where individuals are reviewing like cosmetics lines and makeups and things like that. And it's still challenging for people to find a wide range of shades of color cosmetics, foundation. So a
Right.
lot of companies still aren't really catering to people of color.
Yeah, I think Fenty Beauty has like
Yeah.
like I was watching this morning, like they came out with 40 shades, Rihanna's company 2 years
Yeah.
ago, and they like sold out within days.
Yes. That was a big
Um,
thing.
yeah.
And companies here and there with some of their product lines will do like an extended range of shades, but it's still not. Um, I don't think we're there yet. We're just. I think companies still are playing it really safe. They don't think beyond the sphere of who they think their customer is, and that's a
Yeah.
shame.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, like as I'm somebody who loves beauty and you're somebody who is, a marketing manager at a beauty company. Like what can we commit to making this space more diverse?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's for us something that we can definitely do is just really have more meaningful conversations within our department about who we think our customers are now, whether we're being inclusive enough, whether there's inherent biases with regard to how we bring our product to the market that would make our products not appeal to people other than the people that are
Yeah.
already, if that makes sense.
Totally. I mean, I think it would make, when I look at your guys' Instagram page, like, I think it would make a huge difference to just start photographing products like in black and brown hands. Like,
Yeah.
so that there's like a mixture of, just to make it like, it must be, it's only now that we're waking up to these things, but it must be so off-putting. If I were a Black woman to come to a page and see all white imagery.
Everything. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, thank God we're becoming aware of this, but like, it's pretty crazy, right? That's so
Well,
many mainstream brands have so much white imagery.
they do, and I think that even brands that use a lot of stock photography are using mostly white imagery, and I think that a lot of them are probably doing it without any awareness of that.
Yeah, yeah,
which is a big part of the problem, right? So it's not just about um, you know making a commitment to anti-racist practices, but it's also about actively considering how you may be excluding people without even really thinking that you are.
yeah, yeah. I mean, one thing that I can like, I'm like between jobs, essentially, like deciding what move I want to make next in my career. One thing I think about is like, as a brand like yours, like imagine if the service I offered was, getting you to influencers of color so that you can gift products to them and they can use it on their platform. How would you as a marketing manager respond to like an offer of that service? Like if I, was like, that's what I want to focus on. I think beauty needs to be more diverse. Let's get these products into the hands of women of color so they can use them for their audiences. Like, how would you feel about that as a marketing manager?
I think we'd be happy to do that. I mean, it's actually so because we operate essentially totally independently from our European businesses.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
We operate like a very small business, and it's already challenging to get product into the hands of influencers without making it seem like it's a commercial endeavor, let alone anybody that doesn't just look like you, if that
Right.
makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
So I think from my perspective, that would be great. I mean, it's a way of building inclusivity into our marketing, but also, putting product into real people's hands, which we've always thought is really important.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can workshop that a little bit. I'll send you like a proposal and then you can tell me if
Yeah,
you would like this,
cool.
it would be more interesting to me. And I want to talk about you too, because I was able to look at your LinkedIn and I found it really unusual. Like I don't often come across many men who have dedicated themselves to clean beauty.
Yeah.
I think it's super cool. And so I want to hear like how you got into that as a passion. I know you've mentioned like working at cosmetic brands and I didn't see that on your LinkedIn. So it seems like what you feel most passionate about is clean beauty. But how did you get into that? How did you get into essential oils to make this your very interesting career?
That's a good question. So, um, when I was getting my bachelor's degree, I was studying Spanish linguistics and knew that I didn't want to work in that space. It was just a personal passion, and I figured that at some point I probably would go back and pursue a second degree. Um, and so when I was studying as an undergraduate student, I took a job at Origins, which is an Estee Lauder company. And although they're sort of um, natural-ish, they're not, they're not like certified organic or anything like that, like we are.
Yeah.
That's kind of was my foray into the world of cleaner products. And the one thing that I really liked about the brand was, especially back then, they focused a lot on holistic wellness. So we would serve tea, and we had some aromatherapy products, and we offered facials in the store, and it just felt like a different world. And I didn't understand it at first, and then what was just a part-time sort of temporary job just became something more than that for me. So following that, I kind of just naturally gravitated towards opportunities in this space. So I worked at Intelligent Nutrients, which is another company that plays in organic products. It's kind of more salon professional. And then I worked at a startup beauty brand for a year that was kind of more focused on hair care. Then I pivoted away for 3 years and went to go work for a retailer in the Twin Cities as sort of a category assistant manager. So I was doing more like buying and merchandising, and that was interesting because it gave me a perspective from the other side of the counter, if that makes sense, as a buyer rather than a manufacturer. And that opened up some opportunities for me to go work with one of the companies that we were purchasing products from for our stores. And that company was really focused on essential oils and sort of holistic wellness. And now I'm at Pronorum. So I've had a lot of experience in this space, and it's just a personal passion project. So I'm a big user of essential oils. I have a huge collection. I like to blend. I formulated the skincare products myself.
I love them. What I love is that clear oil.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me about that? Like, what is the clear oil? Like, it smells so amazing. I feel like it really has made me like clearer and calmer overall. What can you tell me about formulating that product?
So that was, again, kind of a passion project because, like I said, I have kind of normal to oily skin, and I like to be able to use oils on my skin. Even though my skin is more oily, I like to break the stigma that oily skin shouldn't be using oils. I think actually it helps to balance your skin out when you're giving it that nutrition.
Yeah.
But you have to be careful about what you use and at what percentages. So I started with the premise that I wanted to use a willow bark extract because it kind of works to deliver a natural salicylic acid type effect on the skin without being really harsh and drying.
Nice.
And then we built out the ingredients from there. So we added some sweet almond and apricot kernel oil because they make the skin feel really velvety and smooth. And we added black cumin because it's purifying. It has a couple of constituents in it that are calming to the skin, just as a natural part of its composition. And then the essential oil blend for me was really important because that's kind of the sensorial part of the product, but also because depending on which essential oils you choose, they can really add to the benefit of the product. So we wanted to build an aroma that had frankincense at its heart because it's really great for all skin types, kind of as a regenerating, it's said to improve skin's overall appearance. So we started with frankincense, and then we said, well, blue tansy is calming and it gives this really beautiful color. So we added blue tansy, and we added marjoram, which I chose because I wanted something that would be sort of antibacterial and antiseptic, but I wanted something that was gentle. And so marjoram is actually, comparatively, if you look at marjoram versus like thyme or oregano, it's very mild. So we chose marjoram, and then we added just a few other notes to kind of balance it out. I think we've got cedar wood and a little bit of, ylang ylang just for a little floral essence as well. And so I think we ended up with something that's really
So
great.
lovely. What is your favorite mist?
I like the clear mist, but I also like the glow mist. I think it's really it makes my skin kind of feel radiant when I use
Oh, I
it.
sent my mom for Mother's Day. I actually sent my mom the glow, the oil.
Yeah.
And she said she put it on a cut in her on her hand. She's like a big like Clarins buff. Like she doesn't move away from Clarins for like anything. And she said she had a cut on her hand and she put it on and she's like it healed in a day.
Well, and you know, Clarins, like, despite the fact that a lot of their products are kind of like more like pseudo natural, they do have some like really great oils as well, and that's always been kind of part of their thing. But
Yeah.
the glow oil is really awesome. It's got pomegranate kernel oil in it, which is this thick kind of goopy oil, but it makes that particular product like so luxurious. And then we balanced it out with the camellia seed oil, which comes from the tea plant, which gives us, you know, like green tea and black tea. So super loaded with antioxidants. And the color of that product, that really pretty, you can kind of see it right here.
Yes.
It comes from, we use, instead of using just a rose hip seed oil that's like mechanically pressed, we actually use a CO2 extract of rose hip seed oil. So it's literally like when you pour it out, it's like the color of a pomegranate. It's so loaded with carotenoids.
So
It's
cool.
so nutritious for your skin. So, you know, it's really all about, for us, it was about no filler in the product. And we didn't want to create a price premium that would create barriers to entry for people.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's so cool. Love it so much. The
Yeah.
Calm, I want to ask you, the one I haven't opened is the Calm oil.
Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I'm excited to open it and I want to get a good reason to open it.
Yeah. So people that have sensitive skin, psoriasis, eczema, a lot of the time they're actually deficient in gamma linolenic acid, which is an essential fatty acid that your skin needs.
Yeah.
And so we used, I think it's borage in that one, either borage or evening primrose. I can't remember off the top of my head, because it's a natural source of gamma linolenic acid. So it helps to restore that moisture barrier to people that have kind of a depleted or damaged moisture barrier due to like sensitivity, sunburn, eczema, psoriasis. We also added apricot kernel oil to that one as well because it's so cushioning and luxurious and fabulous. And then I think there's argan and calendula as well.
Nice. So it would be good if you had like eczema on your hand. Would you put that on, that oil?
Yeah, I would. Yeah. And then
Nice.
with the essential oil blend for that product, we played it pretty safe. So it's predominantly vanilla with a little bit of lavender and Roman chamomile. So it smells really nice, but it's a lower percentage of essential oils just because, again, we talked about this earlier, but when you use essential oils topically, especially with skin that's already super sensitive, prone to flare up, it can be kind of an issue for some people. So we wanted to make sure that the product was not going to create more harm.
Yeah. I want to go back to something that you said because I thought it was a really powerful idea. Like that if we were able to make some progress with marketing self-care to men, that that is one path we could consider for reducing violence.
Yeah.
What are some more of your ideas around that?
Well, I think, and I have a lot of thoughts on this subject, but I think that as a culture, and it's true of Caucasian families, and it's especially true of African American families. Things that are not like gender normative are still so taboo. So having more conversations about how it's okay for men to want to look and feel good, want to express feelings openly. It's all part of a societal shift that we need to make. That will allow us to be more compassionate people, right? That it's okay to see grown men cry and have feelings, that it's okay for grown men to want to apply moisturizer. It doesn't make them any less of a man. It just, and the notion that people think that in 2020 to me is just mind-blowing, but it's still such a thing. And I don't know why that is, but
Yes. Yes. I think that's it's and do you get, I mean, do people have any surprise meeting you that you're in the industry you're in as a man?
I think, yeah, I mean, I think that it's always, well, and I will say too that among the large beauty kind of conglomerates, there's a lot of men that work in marketing and sales. And our general manager worked for Estee Lauder companies for a long time, and he's obviously a man.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that, um, I don't know. I mean, I guess in a way it's good for me to be doing this, because just as it's surprising for a man to want to use moisturizer, it may also be surprising for a man to want to work in this industry. So we're kind of like reversing out the conversation, whereas we're kind of in a, this is actually more of a female dominated industry.
Right.
But I love my job. I love what I do. I love the people that I work with. And we actually have a pretty balanced team here in terms of gender and diversity as well.
That's awesome. One of the things I started to look into is like basically like the chemistry institutions and organizations that are like deciding on the products that will go forward. There's not a lot of diversity at that level. So that was one thing people were bringing up with, like, you know, why are so many brands sort of lacking in their diversity in the products they're offering?
Yeah.
And one claim was like at the chemical level, like beauty companies, research agencies, there's not as much diversity, and that we need to actively recruit for Black talent at that level.
Well, I think that that's definitely true, and not just Black talent, but also Asian American talent, Latino American talent, just to broaden our horizons, right?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely a thing. There's something else I was going to say about that. I'm trying to think of what it was. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Do you have any shout outs to Minneapolis companies, bookshops that we should check out and support that you know are struggling?
That's a great question. I don't know that there are any. We're just kind of opening up again. There's a couple of. Gosh, I don't know. You're kind of putting me on the spot. I guess I didn't really think about that. I'm sorry.
No, don't worry at all. I mean, if you think of anyone, let me know, because we can, you know, I'll certainly post about it. And, you know, clean beauty hopefully will be more mainstream in the future. So
there is. So I have a couple of friends who are kind of business contemporaries of mine. And they started this collaborative called Six for Good. It would definitely be worthwhile for you to check them out.
Okay.
So it's 6 women-owned companies, and they all do different things, but they're really engaged locally in activities that help promote the common good.
Awesome.
And I think they're all really interested too in learning more about how to be better allies to the African American community. So I would definitely give them a shout out.
Okay, I will. Thank you for taking the time to have this conversation.
Absolutely. It's been a total pleasure.
Thank you. So nice to meet you, Chris.
Yeah, and if you ever want to do it again, we're happy to.
Okay, awesome. Bye.
Right. Bye.
Have a good day. Bye.